Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to show you a selection of Christmas plants to give you an idea of what kind of plants you can buy at Christmas time to make your house a little bit more festive. So first of all, I'm going to start off with probably what I would say is one of the best Christmas plants and also the most iconic, and that is the Poinsettia here. As you can see, this is the standard variety, lovely red colour, and this is the variety that most people think of, just with these red leaves and tiny little yellow flowers in the centre there. But as you can see, I've also got a good selection of other poinsettias. They come in all sizes and shapes. You can see some of them, like this one here, have a lovely speckled kind of marbling on the foliage. This one at the back I think is my favourite. That's because to me that sums up Christmas more than any of the other ones. And the reason for that is the leaves are a bit more kind of jagged and they're variegated as well. And that reminds me of the variegated holly that you get. So that to me looks very much like a Christmas kind of plant with the variegated leaves there and the lovely red. But apart from the red ones, you can see I've also got a lovely pink one at the back here, which has amazing colour, and you can get them in loads of different colour. I'll add a link to the end of my video. I have a very in-depth video about poinsettias and all the different colours and things that they have. So I'm not going to go too much into depth with them. But poinsettias are great plants for a splash of colour. You're not going to get something as colourful as this from any other plant really at this time of year. And as you can see, there's also a white one there on the right. That one's quite a large one actually. But poinsettias, as I say, are the most colourful Christmas plants you can probably get, and they make a great addition to your house, adding a bit of colour, especially the red ones, because they go well with the red and green theme that you normally have at Christmas time. The only downside with poinsettias is you could treat them more as cut flowers, to be honest, because they don't live very long. You might get a month out of them if you're lucky, but generally, because they're bought at a cold time of year, they get a lot of cold drafts in transport to the garden centre. Then they also get a lot of cold temperatures just walking from your garden centre to your front door or to your car. And so because of that, they often have a lot of problems. The leaves often drop. If you see them with the leaves dropping, such as this one is doing here, you can be pretty much guaranteed that this will be dead within a few weeks because it's got cold shock and it's not going to really survive. But if you're lucky and you manage to get one that hasn't had a cold shock, then you can grow them for many years. I personally have grown mine for several years. If you grow them yourself, what tends to happen is they're not ready for Christmas. They're ready more January, February time. But you can force them to be ready, but it just takes a little bit of work. You basically have to give them shorter day lengths. So you're going to put them in the cupboard in the evening and take them out in the morning just to reduce the day length. But you can make them flower yourself if you want to. Keep them year after year. But generally I would say if these die on you, don't worry. It's probably not your fault. It's just the fact that they've been badly transported and they've had some cold. But the main thing to keep them alive, don't let them get too wet. Keep them quite dry. And they should hopefully last for at least a month. And if they're good quality stock from a good nursery or a good garden centre, they can live for many years. And so the next one here, which I would say is the second most colourful. I often think of this as a Mother's Day present or an autumn flowering plant in the garden. But this is the cyclamen. These do well as Christmas plants. They come in lots of different colours as well. I've only got this one at the moment. But they also come in pink, they come in white, and a lot of different shades in between. And as you can see, this one's kind of a red colour. Lovely flowers. This will flower for a good couple of months, so it gives you a lot longer period than the poinsettias give you. And the added benefit is you've got this lovely variegated foliage here. And this foliage will give you lots of lovely kind of interest, even once the flowers are died off. But you can keep this year after year. You just got to make sure it doesn't get too waterlogged, so let it dry out a little bit between watering. It does have a small bulb, which you can't really see because it's just below the soil surface. But if that bulb gets too wet, the plant will rot off and die. So you want to keep this somewhere quite cool, give it some bright light. In the summertime, take it away from the brightest light, and it may actually die back and lose all its leaves in the summer, because quite often cyclamens are dormant during the summertime and they actually grow over winter time. So they're actually opposite to the most plants. Most plants will go dormant in winter and grow over summer. Cyclamen are the opposite. They flower and do their thing over winter, and their summer they're dormant, and that's because they come from a hot, dry Mediterranean climate. In the summertime it's too hot and there's not enough water for them to grow. But in the winter, they have nice cool temperatures in the Mediterranean climate where they come from, and plenty of rainfall. So in your house, winter time is a good time for them. You know, it's about 20 degrees, and you give them enough water, they'll be quite happy. When they do lose their leaves and their flowers in summer, let them go completely dry. not water them for a few months, and then when it starts to get a little bit cooler in autumn, start watering again, especially if you see some growth, and then hopefully they'll flower year after year. So they're a nice one. They're cyclamen, and some cyclamen you can actually grow outside. The ones you normally buy in the houseplant section, they're normally not frost hardy, so you can't plant them outside. But always ask in your garden centre, because you can also get hardy ones that you can grow in your garden that will last for many, many years. So moving on, my next favourite is probably the Christmas cactus. Unfortunately, this isn't a very good specimen. I just bought it recently in the shop, and because of that, it's kind of flopped over. When you have them for several years, what you'll find is the stems will be a bit stronger. They'll arch up nicely, and you'll get a nice kind of weeping habit. At the moment, this one looks a bit straggly. And the other problem with shop bought ones is the flower buds fall off a lot. That's because any changes in temperature or light they don't really like, and the plant goes into a bit of shock and drops all its buds. So you can see here a lot of the buds have fallen, and so it's got a few flowers on, and they're very colourful for a cactus, and they do look quite nice. And this again comes in several colours. You know, you can get yellow, you can get pink, red, lots of different colours these can come in. Basically all these plants come in lots of colours that I'm showing you today, but none of them come in blue. So the Christmas cactus is a great plant. It'll flower for you every Christmas, and it'll flower on and off for most of the winter as well, and even sometimes in summer if you live in a cooler climate. As I say, they do flower a lot better, I find, the next year. That's because if you keep them at home and you grow them at home, the light and the temperature doesn't change too much. They don't drop so many flower buds, and they give you much better flowering. So even if it doesn't look that great this year, you can rest assured that if you look after this well, you'll have much better flowering the following years. So this plant's a bit different in that case. Most plants, you know, you buy them in a supermarket, they're going to look really good when you buy them. And the next few years, they're not going to look quite as good because you can't grow them quite as well in your house setting without grow lamps or higher temperatures. But the Christmas cacti is an exception to that, because it drops so many of its flowers in transit. When you have it at home, it's going to hold them, and you're going to have a really good display. So this does quite well in quite a bright location over winter. You need to give it plenty of light, especially if you live somewhere far north where there's not a lot of strong sunshine. It'll flower well for you over winter. Once the flowers have stopped, it's very important that you don't water it anymore. You must let the soil dry out and really become quite dry. That will just kind of reset the clock on the plant, and that lets it know that's the end of winter. It's coming into growth period. If you don't give it a cool and dry period after it's finished flowering, it won't flower next year. So if you've had one of these plants and it's not flowered for you and you're wondering why, it's basically because you haven't given it a rest period. So make sure you always give it a rest period after the Christmas cactus has finished flowering, and then after a summer of growth, it'll flower for you really well next year. And once it does come into growth in spring and the warmer temperatures come, you want to keep this quite moist. Although it's a cactus, it's actually from a tropical rainforest. They actually grow on trees. So they're used to regular watering, but with also quite free draining soil. So what you need to make sure is that they're always kept damp but never soggy, because if it is soggy they can still rot off. But as soon as the compost starts to dry out, make sure you keep it watered, and you never want it to become completely dry apart from during its dormant period. And also, these don't like too much sunshine. These actually grow, as I say, on trees, and because they're on the trunks of the trees, they don't get direct sunlight in the wild. They get a lot of filtered light coming through the leaves from the trees above. So this actually likes quite a protected position. So don't put this on a sunny windowsill in the summertime. If it gets too much sunshine, you'll notice the leaves will go very light green and even yellow in colour. So when the strong sun comes in March, April time, keep this in a bright position, but away from any direct sunlight, and even a shadier spot in the midsummer when you have the strongest of sun. Then when it comes into November, December time and January, when you've got a weak sunshine, this can go back on the windowsill and it can take direct sunlight as long as you live far north. If you live somewhere that still has strong sunshine in the winter, then I would still keep the same regime as summer and keep it out of any direct sunlight. So finally here we have a plant called a flaming katy, otherwise known as a kalanchoe. This is another good succulent. This one likes it a little bit drier than the Christmas cacti, but it's not a true cactus. So you can see it's got big leaves and they're not that thick. It does like it moderately damp throughout the summer. And what I would do is just let the compost dry out slightly between watering, and then water it again. You want it to get a tiny bit dry, but you don't want it to get bone dry, and you want to be watering it on a moderately regular basis. This again comes in plenty of different colours. This is a good Christmas plant. It keeps the flowers probably 2 or 3 months. This one's only just starting to come into flower now, so it doesn't look particularly spectacular, but you can see how many buds are coming, and the whole top of this plant will be bright red when they're all open. And these are good as well because they'll repeat flower as long as the temperature is cold. So I live in quite a cold place. I live up in Edinburgh and the flat's not particularly warm. So once this first flush of flowers are finished, I suspect it will have another 2 or 3 flushes, and even in March, April time I should be expecting new flowers to be coming on this plant. And then when it comes to summertime, it will just grow lots of leaves. You want to keep it well fed, in a sunny position, but not the harshest of direct sunlight during midday. But you know, morning sun, afternoon sun, that's good for it. It likes a lot of sunlight, quite a bit of warmth in summer. Also drinks quite a lot during that time. Quite a thirsty plant during the summertime. And it will grow quite well for you. Loads of leaves, but won't grow any flowers in the summer. Now when the colder months come, it will then start forming flower buds. This only forms flower buds when you've got temperatures that are quite low. So put it in a cold room in your house, you know, something below 15 degrees, maybe 12 degrees. That's a good temperature. That'll let the plant know it's winter, and that's the time it naturally flowers in the wild, and it'll start forming its flower buds. So that's the Kalanchoe. As I say, lots of different colours it comes in, and it can vary in size. The size has nothing to do with when it flowers. This can flower as a tiny little plant or as a very large, almost like a shrub. The only thing that determines whether this flowers or not is actually its temperature. So if it's cold temperatures, even a tiny baby plant will flower, and if it's warm temperatures, even a mature plant won't flower. So that's all the Christmas plants that I'm going to discuss in this video. As you can see, they all come in lots of different colours. I've got a good representation of poinsettias here, but the other 3 plants, the cyclamen, the Christmas cacti, and the flaming katy or kalanchoe, they also come in lots of different colours and sizes. So there's lots to choose from, and you can have a really nice selection of plants around your house at Christmas time to really add a bit of extra colour.